3 years into my arranged marriage with my husband, I stumbled upon a post from one of his burner accounts. Married to a wife I can't stand. How do I cope? My heart paused, a sour ache blooming in my chest as I clicked into the thread. But what I saw wasn't just a casual complaint. It was page after page. Dense notes and updates, every line about me. How can someone be this dumb? Loses a game and just starts crying? So annoying. Had to boost her rank for her. She's an adult, but still gets her credit cards frozen by her parents? Seriously? I wired her 200 grand. Just treat it as pocket money or whatever. Just a bit of kindness and she clings like a puppy. So stupid. She'd probably get sold off one day and not even notice. No idea how she made it through the first half of her life. She kicks the blanket off in the middle of the night. I have to get up and cover her. Every post, every entry was about me. And the comments? Just as relentless. Oh ho, picking up her blanket? Bet he sniffed it while he was at it. You call this hate? Bro, I'd kill to be hated like this. 200 grand worth of hate? Where do I sign up? Dude, just admit you're head over heels. And the latest comment, posted 3 minutes ago, was from him. Where do you see love? Forget it. You guys wouldn't get it anyway. I need to go tuck her in. Welcome to History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. Before bed that night, I accidentally came across Alexander Panabaker's burner account. I clicked into his profile without much thought, my expression calm, until my eyes landed on his pinned post. My chest tightened as though filled with lead. A single line, sharp and unflinching, pierced straight through me. Married to a wife I can't stand. How do I manage her after marriage? Alexander and I had been in this arranged marriage for 3 years. And the wife he was talking about was me. For 3 years, we treated each other with polite restraint. Never passionate, never cruel. I wouldn't have called it love, but surely it wasn't hate. Still, like someone drawn to their own pain, I couldn't resist. I clicked. Over 2,000 comments. He'd been writing about me long before our wedding. Documenting everything. Met the fiancé my family arranged for me today. She's so young. They really want me to play dad after marriage? Please spare me. My wife is tiny. And dumb. Okay, fine. Tiny and kind of funny. Not funny at all. She got into another man's car after school. I'm tall enough, big enough. How the hell did she not see me? Idiot. In the end, I still had to drive her home. How can anyone be this stupid? Lost a game and started crying. Useless. Had to boost her rank for her. She's a grown woman but still gets her card frozen by her parents? Forget it. I wired her $200,000. Call it pocket money. She clings to me if I show the slightest kindness. So dumb she wouldn't notice being sold off. No idea how she survived her first 20 years. Kicks her blanket off at night. I have to get up and cover her. The more I read, the stranger it felt. Was this hate? Apparently, I wasn't the only one confused. His comment section was full of the same disbelief. Picking up her blanket? Come on, bro, you definitely sniffed it. You call this hate? 200 grand worth of hate? Sign me up. He fell for her the moment he called her funny. You hate your wife? Hand her over then. Sorry, I'm staying right here. Please post more. Bro. You're way too in love. The most recent comment was his own. Posted 3 minutes ago. Where do you see love? Forget it. You wouldn't understand. I have to go tuck her in. Our marriage had been arranged by our parents. The first time I met Alexander Panabaker was at our engagement party. We'd never seen each other before, and the photo my parents had shown me was of him as a teenager. So when he stood right in front of me that night, I didn't recognize him. Excuse me, I murmured, trying to squeeze past the tall man in a suit blocking my way. I'm in a hurry. He turned around, eyes calm but unreadable, making no move to step aside. So I asked again, even softer, could you please move? The silence broke with laughter from his friends nearby. Alexander, your fiancé doesn't even recognize you, one teased. Guess you two aren't that close yet. Sweetheart, you've never met Alexander Panabaker before, huh? Alex, she looks so young. You sure you didn't lie to her first? That was when I realized. This was him. The man I was promised to. I finally looked up, really seeing him for the first time. Alexander Panabaker was striking. Sharp features softened by youth, a quiet confidence in the way he carried himself. His shirt was buttoned all the way to the top, his posture impeccable, the kind of refinement you couldn't fake. He extended a hand toward me, his tone smooth. Then let's get acquainted, Miss Norman, he said. I'm your fiancé, Alexander Panabaker. After that, maybe fearing I'd mistake someone else for him again, Alexander started showing up at my school to pick me up. Because of health issues, I was a day student back then. He'd drive me home himself whenever he could. I told him once, you could just send your driver, you know. You don't have to come every time. He glanced at me, half amused, half exasperated. I'm just making sure you don't get into the wrong car again. My face burned instantly. It wasn't an unfounded worry. Once, when he waited for me in the car, another vehicle that looked exactly like his had stopped nearby. Without thinking, I climbed in, only to realize halfway through the ride that the driver had no idea who I was. When I got out, Alexander was parked right behind, watching me silently through the falling snow. Idiot, his lips shaped the word. I can recognize you now, I told him. And your license plate. I won't mess up again. He let out a soft laugh. Good for you. Finally remembering something of mine. I lowered my head, too flustered to reply. I wasn't stupid. Not really. Later, as planned, we married. Alexander never said he loved me, but whenever I ran into trouble, he was there, always the first to appear. I thought that meant something. That even if it wasn't love, at least it wasn't hate. But tonight, reading that post, I realized, maybe it was neither. Maybe he just found it easier to handle things himself than to watch me struggle. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred, shrinking back into the quiet shell I'd once lived in. It's fine, I told myself. The marriage was only meant to last 3 years. At least I realized the truth before it ended. When Alexander came out of the bathroom, his hair damp, he dried it casually with a towel and tossed his phone onto the nightstand. The same phone he'd just used to reply to those comments. He climbed into bed, his voice gentle, familiar. Ready to sleep, Elizabeth? Want me to pat your back again? My throat tightened. I blinked hard, trying to hold it in, but my voice still cracked when I asked. Alexander. Do you really hate me that much? Alexander Panabaker hadn't expected me to ask that. More than anything, he looked lost. His voice faltered when he tried to respond. I shook my head gently, as if to reassure him. It's all right. The 3-year mark is almost here. I won't keep you for a 4th. Alexander Panabaker, I asked, my voice quiet. Do you want to divorce me? The moonlight spilled in through the windows, soft and silent. Alexander looked at me, brows drawing together in something almost like hurt. No, he said. This time, his voice was firm. I don't want to divorce you. I stared at him, the weight in my chest pressing down harder. He was the one who wrote that he hated me, and now he was the one refusing to let me go. What was I supposed to do with that? He was good. I'd always believed that. I just didn't want someone who was good to me to secretly hate me. Whenever I felt upset, I would frown without realizing it. Now his fingers reached up, gently smoothing the crease between my brows. Elizabeth, baby. That was what he always called me when he tried to comfort me or calm me down. He leaned in close, brushing his cheek against mine. No more frowning. He pulled me into his arms, the gesture practiced and familiar. His palm warm as it rubbed slow circles on my back. Did you see something? Hear something? He asked softly. Tell me. We'll deal with it together. His words cracked something in me. Tears welled up again, spilling before I could stop them. He reached to catch them, but too late. I couldn't find the words. My breath came in shallow gasps, broken and uneven. So I shoved my phone into his hands, screen still glowing. You just look. One word at a time. That was all I could manage. And Alexander. The moment his eyes landed on that bold, cruel title, he knew. He glanced back at me, raised his hand like he meant to wipe my tears, but hesitated. Now wasn't the moment for soft gestures. It was the moment to own what he'd done. I had imagined many things. That he'd explain himself. That he'd deny it, or apologize. Or that, maybe, his voice would go cold and distant and he'd admit it with brutal honesty. Yeah, I hate you. I hate how dumb you are. What about it? But I never imagined this. Alexander Panabaker, sliding down to his knees beside the bed. I'm sorry. He said it quietly, but I felt the weight in every syllable. I blinked, caught off guard, my crying interrupted by the surrealness of it. Huh. I looked down at him, confused. He edged closer on his knees, carefully watching my face. Elizabeth, baby, he said again, this time from below, gazing up at me. There was something honest in his eyes I hadn't noticed before, like starlight gathered from every lonely corner of the sky, all reflecting in the way he looked at me now. You know how I am. I've always had a hard mouth. I fell for you the moment I saw you. But I was too damn stubborn to admit it. You had school, then work. We barely had time together. I missed you, but I didn't know how to say it. So I wrote those stupid posts. I said I hated you because I didn't know how else to want you without sounding desperate. He looked at me again, nervous now. Okay, maybe I did hate you a little. But not the way you think. I hated that you didn't look at me. That you mistook me for someone else. That you didn't seem to miss me the way I missed you. He finally reached me, took my hand, cautiously. When I didn't pull away, he pressed his cheek into my palm like a wounded animal seeking warmth. Elizabeth, baby, he whispered. All I ever wanted was for you to coax me a little more. I had never dated anyone before marrying Alexander. And Alexander Panabaker, he played in a league far beyond mine. He could be soft or strong, distant or clingy, cold or burning, and I had no defense against any of it. My palms started to sweat. My cheeks were growing warm. Before I could embarrass myself further, I pulled my hand free, scrambled to the far edge of the bed, and threw the blanket over myself like a cocoon. But Alexander Panabaker, of course, followed. Like a ghost. He tugged at the blanket's edge, prying a tiny hole open, trying to squeeze his head through. He failed. Still mad? He asked, tapping my shoulder through the fabric. We stayed like that, tense and tangled in silence, for 5 minutes. Can you even breathe in there? He murmured eventually, giving the blanket another tug. Come on, Elizabeth. Don't smother yourself. Let me see you. But I stayed still. He gave up, collapsing onto the empty side of the bed with a sigh. A deep, dramatic sigh. Guess I'm screwed. I'm going to freeze tonight. Someone stole the whole blanket. Bet I'll wake up sick tomorrow. I heard it. And my cocoon shifted. Wordless, I inched closer, draping a small corner of the blanket over his stomach. Cold was one thing, but not the stomach. That would actually make him sick. But that tiny gesture, just one soft edge of kindness, was all he needed. Like a snake slipping through a crack, he slithered back under the covers, wrapping me tightly in his arms. Tighter than last time. I wriggled, trying to escape. I'm cold, he whispered. I froze. And stayed there. Still curled in his embrace. But I didn't look at him. Didn't speak. Then he did something ridiculous. He took my hand. Slipped it beneath his pajama shirt. Guided it across his stomach, over his abs, up to his chest, until it landed on the rapid hammering rhythm of his heart. Our foreheads touched. Feel that, he murmured. That's for you. Bastard. He was burning up. I nestled deeper into his arms, let his arm become my pillow. Closed my eyes. Fine. He felt good. I'd let it slide. Just this once. The next morning, I was woken up not by the sun, not by Alexander's voice, but by the shrill, unrelenting ring of my phone. The moment I answered, my mother's voice came blaring through the receiver. Elizabeth, do you even remember you have a mother? How long has it been since you came home? And don't you think that just because you married Alexander Panabaker, you're above us now? Don't forget, it was your father and I who arranged for you to marry into that family in the first place. She paused only to breathe, then came back in full force. Why aren't you talking? Always go mute the moment someone scolds you. Before she could finish, the phone was yanked from my hand. Alexander, looking half awake and wholly annoyed, brought the phone to his ear. Mom, he said curtly. Elizabeth and I just woke up. She was up late drawing last night. We're just sleeping in a little. That's not a problem, is it? Apparently, hearing his voice worked far better than mine ever did. Her tone shifted instantly. Nervous chuckles bubbling through the line. No, of course not. I just figured it's already 2:30. You'd be up by now. That's all. Nothing important. Just thought maybe we could have dinner together sometime. It's been ages, you know. She wasn't wrong. The last time we'd visited my family was during the New Year. But that didn't mean I wanted to go back. Alexander listened until she finished, his patience clearly thinning. Then, without waiting for her response, he said, 2 hours from now. And hung up. I reached for my phone, but he flipped its screen down and pushed it aside, blocking my hand with his own. Then, like an annoyed cat dealing with morning grumpiness, he buried his face in my shoulder and rubbed against it, slow and lazy. But after a while, that wasn't enough. He shoved me down, roughly but still with care, and hovered over me, his weight pressing down. He inhaled deeply, like I was something he'd been aching to touch, to feel. Then he leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing. You're just going to lie there like that, he said. No resistance? I knew what he meant. I avoided his gaze, shaking my head softly. She's my mother, I said. He didn't press further. Still sleepy, he asked instead, already shifting into logistics mode. If not, get up. Let's wash up and head out. Sooner we leave, sooner we're done. Okay, I whispered. We arrived at my parents' place at exactly 4 o'clock. We hadn't even finished changing out of our shoes before my parents seamlessly split us apart. Alexander, come on in, play a round of Go with me, my father called, waving him over with suspicious enthusiasm. No one here ever wants to play. It's dull as hell. Meanwhile, my mother and older brother gravitated toward me. My mom's tone flipped into sugar-sweet maternal concern. Elizabeth, come here, let me look at you. Have you lost weight? These performances were never without purpose. And true enough, once the door shut behind us, her mask dropped. She looked at me squarely. So, how are things between you and Alexander lately? She asked. Fine, I replied. She clicked her tongue in disapproval, clearly unsatisfied. Don't lie. You think I don't know better? A man like Alexander. He's seen every kind of woman out there. Why would he be interested in someone like you? She leaned closer. Tell me the truth. Does he have someone else? Are you two going to have a child? A child? I didn't particularly want one. What about Alexander? Had I ever even asked him? What if he did want one? My thoughts drifted, and my mother shoved me lightly. I'm talking to you. Why are you spacing out again? I don't know, I answered honestly. She sighed like I was hopeless. Like she was talking to a block of wood. You really don't feel it? The signs? A man's heart, she muttered, clearly exasperated. I swear, you've been a disappointment since you were a kid. And then, she got to the real reason I was here. Well, no matter. Let's talk seriously now. She sat down in front of me, her voice lower. Elizabeth, you know the company's not doing well, right? Your brother's in charge now, and he's made some losses. Big ones. We've been trying to patch the holes, but we're still short. I'd left home after graduation to pursue a career in the field I loved. Illustration. I became a manga artist. I never joined the family business. Not that they ever wanted me to. They'd always said business wasn't for girls. Over the years, through my job and published works, I'd managed to earn a decent amount. So I asked, a little too confidently, "How much are you short?" Her answer knocked the air out of me. 300 million. I sat there stunned. So that's why I'd been called back. Not for a visit. They wanted me to ask Alexander for help. To beg him to bail out my brother. And what would he think once he found out? That this was what the marriage had always been for? That it was never about love? Just transactions? That I was only just now showing my true colors? Growing up, my brother had always been the favored child. I never understood why they'd had me at all. Later I learned. They had me for appearances. First, so no one could accuse them of valuing sons over daughters. Second, because at the time, my grandfather was still alive. He'd been friends with the Panabaker family's grandfather. Alexander's mother had always wanted a daughter, but only had him. And I, by some accident of birth, happened to be a girl. With that connection, perhaps one day I could be married into the Panabaker family. But fate doesn't always play along. My grandfather died before I could even speak. I never even met Alexander then. Years later, the marriage happened only because, at a party, my father ran into Alexander's father and forced a few words of small talk. He brought up the long-dead connection, and from that flicker of relevance, pulled together just enough history to make it happen. The moment Alexander's mother laid eyes on me, she sang praises as if reading from a carefully crafted script. How delicate I looked, how pretty my hands were. But what truly delighted her, she said, was how obedient I was. Like a doll, she said. All edges worn down. And she was right. People like me, quiet, accommodating, were easy to shape, easy to control, easy to love when it served a purpose. If you're sure you and Alexander Panabaker won't be having kids, my mother said, lowering her voice but not her tone, then there's no way to tie him down. So before the divorce, see if you can get him to hand over some money. Help us out. To her, this arranged marriage of mine was a bargain. Consider it a return on your investment, she added. The sigh left my lips in the same breath that a thunderclap cracked outside. Startled, my mother flinched, then instinctively turned to check on my brother. Only after confirming that he was fine did she grumble, "What kind of thunder is that?" "The sun's out." I stared at her calmly, like I was looking at a stranger. Because maybe, in truth, I always had been. I was the most familiar stranger in this house. Remembered only when they needed something. Born to perfect their image. Raised to be their backup plan. In this home, I wasn't a daughter. I was raw material. Malleable, silent, and useful. I turned to the man who hadn't spoken since we arrived. "And what about you, Ziv?" I asked. "Do you want my marriage to bail you out too?" Ziv Norman didn't respond. I let out a bitter laugh. Didn't surprise me. He never said yes, never said no, but always accepted the benefits quietly. And when things fell apart, he had his signature line ready. "I never asked you to help me." His life was easy like that. I was still trying to figure out how to make a graceful exit when my phone lit up. A message from Alexander. "Alexander Panabaker. When are you coming down? I want to go home and eat." Alexander Panabaker. "Your mom just sent me a picture. Looks like they made that spicy fish you like. Image.jpg. I gave them one last glance. No hesitation. "I'm going home," I said simply. "We'll talk some other time." I walked out fast, almost running. My mother didn't even try to stop me. Neither did my brother. And when I reached the first floor, I moved straight to Alexander's side. Behind him, my mother said nothing. Because in front of outsiders, she played the role of the perfect mother, devoted to both her children. If word got out that she had tried to trade her daughter's marriage for a bailout of her son's failed business, it would shatter the reputation she had so carefully maintained. And Alexander Panabaker? He wasn't someone you offended lightly. They might still need him one day. How could she dare? The look she gave me as we left wasn't just disappointment. It was resentment. Resentment that she couldn't control me anymore. Maybe, in that moment, She regretted marrying me off to someone like Alexander Panabaker. If I'd married someone more ordinary, she could still pull the strings. But she miscalculated. It didn't matter who I married. The moment I left this house, I stopped being theirs. And then, Alexander took my hand. Firmly. Without hesitation. He didn't wait for a goodbye. "We're leaving, Madam Norman," he said coldly. The car was quiet. Alexander put on soft music, letting it settle between us. "Rough day?" he asked, eyes on the road. At the red light, he glanced over. "You've got your whole face scrunched up. You sure you're not a wooden puppet that somehow came to life?" I looked at him and shook my head. "No, I'm not. Your dad downstairs, your mom and brother upstairs. They separated us on purpose. Obviously, this wasn't just a casual meal invite." He spoke gently, calmly. "Whatever your mom said, I can guess most of it." His words stripped away the last of my dignity. It was like standing naked in front of someone clean and untainted, every ugly part of me exposed under a merciless sun. All the things I wanted to hide, he saw. "I didn't agree to anything," he added quietly. "You mad at me?" I shook my head again. "No." Then he asked, "Ever think about taking the company from them?" "I don't know how," I said honestly. Since graduating, I'd been a manga artist. I had no clue how to run a business. "You could learn," he said. I hesitated. Just for a second. When I was 18, I once asked to be involved in the family business. No one supported me. And over time that ambition withered. Now I was 24. And no, it wasn't true that I had no ambition. But I still shook my head. No need. Taking the company meant fighting Ziv. It meant staying close to the family I wanted so badly to escape. All I wanted was to be free of them. But when I looked up, I saw Alexander watching me through the rearview mirror. Smirking. "You hesitated," he said. "That means you do want it. Don't think about them. They don't matter." He met my gaze directly now. "Elizabeth, your future belongs to you." The light turned green. He turned forward again, but not before his voice dropped to that familiar affectionate softness. "Elizabeth, baby. Don't be afraid. I'll fight for you." Alexander Panabaker moved faster than anyone anticipated. When he said he wouldn't help Ziv Norman, what he really meant was, no one in this entire circle would. Whatever money Ziv had managed to raise previously had already begun to vanish, pulled back by wary investors. Eventually, with nowhere else to turn, my father came knocking on our door himself. "I offered you terms back then," Alexander said flatly, seated across from him. "You turned me down. And now you're here again, changing your mind. Sorry, Mr. Norman, but the offer's no longer valid." My father, knowing full well the company's current state, didn't even attempt to negotiate. He simply asked, "Then what's your price?" Alexander didn't answer. He turned to look at me instead. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. He hadn't lied in the car that day. If I wanted it, he'd fight to get it for me. Sensing that, my father, always one to test weakness, tried to appeal to my softer side. "Elizabeth, you don't even understand this stuff. Why fight your brother over it? Look, I'll give you your grandfather's old house." But I cut him off without a blink. I turned to Alexander and said, with firm resolve, "All of it." I didn't just mean Ziv's fragile business. I meant every last ownership proxy and asset under the Norman name. Alexander blinked, surprised for a split second, then smiled, turning smoothly back to my father. "Well, sir? What do you think?" My father spluttered, stunned. "Elizabeth, this is outrageous. You're going too far." I didn't raise my voice. Didn't even lift my head. Mumbling softly, I said, "How is it too far? I'm your child too. If Ziv made mistakes, I'm just stepping in to fix them. What's wrong with that? It's not like I asked for this from the start." "Elizabeth!" he snapped, voice sharp, like I was still the little girl he could reprimand freely. "You think Alexander is helping you now because you're still married. Once you're divorced, He'll take half of everything, even Norman's estate. He doesn't care about Norman's assets, I murmured back. Even if we divorced, we might still come out ahead. You! Whatever insult he had loaded was cut off by Alexander's voice. Sir, weren't you supposed to come with sincerity today? He asked coolly. Seems like we're wasting our time again. And just so you're aware, the next time you come knocking, the price goes up. No one likes doing business at a loss. Wouldn't you agree? My father faltered. Then, begrudgingly, nodded. All right. That was my cue. I rose from my seat and stretched my hand toward Alexander. He raised an eyebrow at first, clearly amused, but then without hesitation, slid his hand into mine. He laced our fingers together. With our hands linked, I led him out of the room without offering my father a second glance. No need to see us off, Dad, I said simply. Just as we rounded the corner, my father's voice called after us, almost as if something had finally clicked in his mind. Elizabeth, no matter what happens, don't make things difficult for Ziv. He's still your brother. But I never heard the end of it. Alexander covered my ears and blocked my sight with his body. Before lowering his hand, he muttered under his breath. You don't need to hear that. You do what you want, Elizabeth. Brother, huh? He added tone dark. I'm your husband. I was 24. And anyone who claimed people at that age had no ambition was lying. The truth was, mine had just never been acknowledged. What surprised me most was that the first person to see it, to take it seriously, wasn't anyone related to me. Still think you're not good at business? Alexander teased, gently pinching my cheek. You really squeezed him back there. I let him. Didn't push his hand away. He probably knew you'd say no the moment he arrived, I murmured. But he didn't expect me to be the one to say it. He hadn't expected me to challenge my brother. To show teeth. To have ambition. Even after they'd already compromised, I still went against their script. They always called me wooden. I never minded. What's wrong with wood? With fire it burns longer. With water it floats. Saves lives. It's a good thing. Do you think I asked for too much? I asked, narrowing my eyes at Alexander. Too much, he repeated. Not at all. Then added quickly, survival instincts on full alert. You could ask for more. In fact, if you're a little bolder with me, I'd be thrilled. Bold. Did he mean give him my body? Or my trust? Or maybe, to be someone he could lean on too? Elizabeth, baby, he murmured again. Why do you always look away when I get close? At some point, he'd pulled me into his arms again. Held me close. And this time, he didn't let me look away. Look at me, he whispered. Firm. Insistent. I couldn't. If I did, I might lose control. You! I pushed against his chest weakly. Let go. No, he said simply. I stared at him, cheeks burning. You changed topics way too fast. We were just talking about my dad. Now you're flirting again. Alexander didn't even blink. I don't want you thinking about other men while you're with me, he said. Even if it's your brother. Then, without warning, he scooped me up into his arms and tossed me over his shoulder. Looks like you'll be busy from now on, he smirked. Sure you don't want to spend a little more time with me? And just like that, all my resistance crumbled. I stopped struggling. Because the truth was, I did want to spend more time with Alexander Panabaker. The next morning, I sat in the car, absent-mindedly flipping through a thick stack of property documents in my lap. Page after page passed by until I suddenly stopped, frowning. HM? This one has your name on it. I held it out toward Alexander, confused. But he just pushed it gently back into my hands. They're all under your name now, he said casually. Just finished the transfer. I stared at him, stunned. It took a moment for reality to sink in. He looked a little sheepish. Elizabeth, you didn't grow up being spoiled, did you? You've never been comforted properly. That's why you have no sense of security, right? He scratched his head, trying to find the words. I'm not as smart as you probably think, he added. He looked at me then, and in his eyes, that familiar starlight returned, soft and sincere. If just saying I love you isn't enough to make you feel safe, then maybe these will be. Elizabeth, I really do love you. Alexander Panabaker, always so clumsy when it came to coaxing me, was trying again in his own way. I looked at him, then out the car window. Winter had passed. It was already spring. Soft rain streaked down the glass, and thunder rolled distantly in waves. But compared to the thunder outside, the pounding in my chest was far louder. And at that moment, it was as if something inside me cracked open. The old withered bark of a tree began to peel away, revealing a spring in full bloom beneath. She, this version of me, began to unfurl, her heart awakening without shame. Because what they called dead wood was never lifeless. She had simply endured too many seasons of disappointment. She had sealed herself up in silence for protection. But she could still bloom. I gripped the documents tightly, eyes lowered. Thank you. Alexander looked at me, then looked disappointed. That's it, he asked. Just thank you. I lifted my gaze to meet his. His eyes were clear and steady, overflowing with quiet affection. Elizabeth, he asked, voice soft, if I said I love you, what would you say back? I looked away quickly, avoiding his eyes. Say it back? That was too embarrassing. I wasn't sure I could. But Alexander wasn't the type to let things go. He didn't even bother starting the car. He leaned in, unbuckled his seatbelt, and moved closer, impatient and curious. Elizabeth, answer me, he whispered. His breath was warm against my skin, brushing my ear. I could feel the heat rise. Cornered, I gave up. Leaning forward, I pressed the lightest kiss to his cheek. Then glanced up again, just in time to see his pupils dilate in surprise. Does that count? I whispered. Alexander froze. His breath hitched. For a long beat, he stayed there, utterly still, then without a word, slunk back into the driver's seat. He closed his eyes. Took a deep breath. What did that mean? Was he that desperate to hear it said aloud? Fine. I opened my mouth. Alexander, But he cut me off, voice trembling with excitement. Wait. Not yet. Tell me later. Only afterward would I understand what later meant. He tormented me for hours. Made me say those words over and over again. No matter how many times I cried or begged him to stop, he didn't. Not once. At 1 a.m., he was still coaxing, still whispering against my lips. Why are you crying again? Aren't I comforting you? Deep or shallow, don't you get to decide? Be good, Elizabeth. Wood only blooms after lots of watering. At 2 a.m., while playing with my fingers, he murmured sleepily. Elizabeth, do you believe in love at first sight? Because I do. I fell for you the moment I first saw you. I'd never seen a girl like you before. Quiet. Still. A little slow, maybe. But your eyes were never lost. I'm a few years older than you. Will you still love me even when we're old? His voice drifted in and out of dreams. And even in my sleep, I could feel him reaching for me again and again. By 3 a.m., Alexander's secret burner account was back at the top of the forum. I'm at a loss. My wife cried the whole time tonight, whispering I love you over and over. She didn't stop until she passed out from exhaustion. What can I do? Guess I'm stuck with her for life now. The comments? Exactly what you'd expect. Who asked you, bro? It's 3 a.m. and this is what you post? So you're just flexing now, huh? Mystery solved. This was a love brag post all along. I thought this was a venting thread. Instead, I choked on your PDA. Finished the whole thread. Still hungry. Got more posts like this? Girl, go check the sugar baby meltdown thread next door. Hilarious. And at